Hello, good morning. Welcome everybody to this morning's session where we'll be talking all about engineering apprenticeships at Amazon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Heather from Career Map, and this morning I'm joined by the team who'll be giving an overview of the programs and hear all about what you can expect as an apprentice. You can hear from hiring managers and also apprentices who are part of the program as well. So just a bit of housekeeping before we kick off. Any questions that you've got can be asked in the chat facility on the right hand side of the page. So you should see a box on the right and you can ask any questions within there. And after the session, we'll put the questions to the team in a bit of a Q&A session. Also a reminder that the session is being recorded, so it will be sent to you via email, so don't worry about missing anything. However, if there's anything that you want to say for like here and now, I'd say just take a picture of the screen with your phone. But I think on that note, it's my opportunity to duck out, hand over to the team, and I'll see you for the questions.
Great, thank you. So yes, good morning everybody. Just introduce myself before we start, and then I'll also introduce my colleagues I have with me from Amazon today. So I'm Adam. I work in the UK apprenticeship team, looking at the attraction and assessment of apprentices across programs in the UK. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by 4 of my colleagues today. So if you guys would please turn your cameras and microphones on and just quickly introduce yourselves. So Brian, maybe start with yourself.
Yeah, good morning everybody. Brian Butler. I look after the UK engineering apprentices. I'll be talking to you in more detail about the actual apprenticeships in detail. Welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Paul?
Hi, my name's Paul. I'm one of the RME area managers at Amazon's Man3 site. I look after the apprentices here at Man3, and I also work closely with Brian Butler on the UK Apprenticeship Program.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a Mechatronics engineer apprenticeship at Amazon Man3.
Thank you. And then finally, Rory.
Hi, yeah, I'm Rory. I'm also a apprentice on the Mechatronics pathway at Man3.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. So if you turn your cameras and microphones back off again, and we'll see everybody a bit later on in the presentation. But before you hear from those guys again, I've got a few slides I'm going to go through about Amazon and about apprenticeships in general. So starting off with Amazon then. So what we generally find at Amazon is most people have heard of us. Most people have used our products and services in some way. We generally don't really struggle with brand recognition, but what a lot of people don't realize with Amazon is the scale and breadth and diversity of what we offer. So we're more than just a kind of online shopping delivery company that everybody's been using in the pandemic because they couldn't get to the shops. And we're more than a tech company. And I'll go through and show you some examples of what we do in a later slide. But so on the left-hand side of the screen there, you'll see a photo of Jeff Bezos, our founder, in 1994. Looks like it might be his garage or something similar, but that's when he essentially launched Amazon.com initially as an online bookstore. So fast forward to today, on the right-hand side of the screen there, you'll see our rather more fancy-looking Sphere office, which is in Seattle. And so Amazon, over the last 20-odd years since it was founded, has grown massively. So today we have around about 1.6 million employees worldwide. And revenue last year was around about 470 billion. So it's a huge company. It's a great place to work if you want to have a kind of multi-year career with a company where you'll potentially be doing lots of different things along the way. So Amazon is not necessarily a company where you'll get stuck doing the same thing year after year. Due to the scale of what we do and how we do it, there's so many opportunities for you to move around jobs, around sites, wherever that might be. So as you can imagine, as I mentioned before, lots of growth over the last 20 odd years. We're still growing. Every year we're introducing new products, new services. So yeah, a very, very, very kind of growth orientated, vibrant place to work. I mentioned before about kind of we're more, as I said, than just an online shopping company or a tech company. this is a very small selection of some of the businesses that Amazon offers. Some of these you may recognize, and some of them you may recognize but didn't realize were part of Amazon. So a couple that I'll pick out. So Whole Foods, for example, is part of Amazon. Twitch, the online streaming and gaming platform, is part of Amazon. But essentially, as you can see here, we have everything from fashion. So there's one thing I didn't know before I joined Amazon 3 years ago, that Amazon has a fashion department, and we've got apprentices now that are fashion buyers for Amazon. But so again, from fashion right through to on the right hand side, you'll see Amazon Robotics. So we've got apprentices and people across Amazon that are working on the robots in the fulfillment centers that move all the packages around at a fast rate to allow us to get the packages to customers quickly. So yeah, again, so everything from fashion through to robotics and a lot in between. Amazon does that. And next slide. This, you probably can't even see all the logos on the screen. It's partly the point, but this is just to re-emphasize the point I was making previously about how much we do. And again, this is by no means everything. This is a small selection of what Amazon does, but each one of these is a separate business working within Amazon. Now, a lot of these have been born out of customer feedback. So customers telling us that they would be interested in certain products and services, and we've introduced them. But a lot of these are also born out of innovation. So these are launched based on us innovating and thinking what the customer needs before the customer even realizes they need it. And I'll give you some examples in a later slide, but this growth is continuing day after day, and Amazon is a very innovative place to allow people to express their views, pursue ideas that they have, and new businesses can be launched off the back of that. So again, just go back to the point, we are so much more than what people necessarily think we are. And you look beneath the surface and there's so many different things. As I said, from as you can see, they're online shopping, which we're best known for, through to payment, through to business services, web and cloud services. So AWS, for example, huge part of our business. So we really are a very diverse company offering a lot of different options and products and services for customers. So now a bit about Amazon and our kind of our culture, how we operate. So this is obviously Jeff, our founder, who spends a lot of time these days going up into space and doing exciting things like that. But essentially, when Jeff launched Amazon, as I said, 1994, one of the founding principles of Amazon was customer obsession, and that's still true today. And what we mean by customer obsession is everything we do is based on the customer. So whatever we do at Amazon, you generally start with the customer and work backwards. Now, that customer can be external, visiting our website, shopping, using our services, etc. But that can also be an internal customer. So a lot of people at Amazon have lots of internal stakeholders they'll work with. And if you view that person as your customer and focus on what they need and how they need it, then that is one of the reasons why Amazon has been so successful and continues to be so successful, is we generally don't do it if it's not right for the customer. And then if it's right for the customer, in turn, it'll be right for Amazon. I mentioned innovation previously. These are just some very high level examples of some of the things that we've done. So you might be aware of cloud computing, AWS, huge part of Amazon. But one example, so advanced shopping is listed there at the bottom. So some of you may have heard of Amazon Go, which was launched in the US a few years ago, and they've just started launching them in the UK. But these are basically stores, shops that you can essentially walk into the shop, pick up items, and walk out without having to queue and pay. So these were developed off the back of customer feedback, which said that the worst part of the shopping experience for them was the queuing and paying at the end. So Amazon has tried to eliminate that part of the process through technology. So these stores now, when you go in, you scan your app, so it knows you're there. And there's cameras and sensors all around the store that when you pick an item up and put it in your bag, it will be detected that you've done that. And on the way out, you scan your app again, and it will send you a summary of what we think you've taken from the store. and you click yes, and you get automatically billed to your Amazon account. So when I was lucky enough to go to Seattle to Amazon's headquarters a few years ago, I went into an Amazon Go store, saw it happen, and it's just really exciting to see that that type of stuff has been developed based on customer feedback. So that's just a small example of the innovation, some of the stuff that we do. There's other examples on the screen there, such as drone development, drone delivery, things like that, home automation. Some of you may have Alexa. This is all innovating and then launching things, as I said, either based on customer feedback or us using information to determine what customers might need before they even need it. A little bit now about our leadership principles very quickly. So our leadership principles, if you've ever interviewed at Amazon before, or if you are going to apply this year, leadership principles is something you need to be aware of. They're not just sort of fancy words that we put on the walls of our offices to sound good. They are ingrained in our recruitment processes, and they're ingrained in our day-to-day work at Amazon. So my first tip of the day, I guess, is if you are going to apply, make sure you're familiar with the leadership principles. And if you can give us examples of when you've demonstrated them, either in your previous work experience, school, college, hobbies, whatever that might be, that's a good start. So when I talk about leadership principles, there are now 16 of them. So there were 2 more that were introduced last year. But these essentially shape how Amazon works. I'm not going to go through them one by one. And we certainly aren't going to test you on every single one of them during the application process. But you can do your own research on these. You can look on our website. You can find what each of them mean, what they stand for. And as I said, if you can think about how you've demonstrated these in the past, that's a very good start. One I will quickly mention, learn and be curious, number 10. This is all about the idea that it doesn't matter what role you're doing, what level you're at, how long you've been working for the company, the idea that we should all be learning day to day, asking questions, finding out how things work, why they work in that way, and then being curious about new ways of doing things. And particularly for apprenticeships, learn and be curious is really important, because apprenticeships are all about learning. It's all about working towards a qualification, increasing your knowledge and your skill set. And so to work for Amazon, you have to be interested in how things work. Can we do it differently? Why is it done that way? Has anybody thought about doing it differently? And it doesn't matter whether you're day one at the company or whether you're, Andy Jassy, current CEO, you should be asking questions and taking the time to learn how things work. That's just one example of one of our leadership principles. There are 15 others. So again, just have a read through them, particularly if you get to the interview stage. Part of your research, make sure you have a look at these and try and understand them. Before I come on to apprenticeships, just a little bit about the company that we are. So I mentioned earlier, we've got 1.6 million employees. So you can imagine that as part of that workforce, there's a lot of diversity. Now, when I say diversity, I'm not just talking about ethnicity, gender, etc., but we're talking about background, your way of thinking, etc. So we essentially, and particularly for apprenticeships, when we hire hundreds of apprentices every year, we want as many different backgrounds, different people, diversity as possible as part of our cohorts. Because we don't want to hire people who all think and act in the same way. We want different people. That allows that kind of different way of thinking, which leads to the innovation. But Amazon is a very inclusive place to work. Some of these logos on the screen here, there's some affinity groups that you can join as part of Amazon. So a couple that I'll quickly mention. So Ben is the Black Employee Network, for example. Amazon PWD is people with disabilities. And as you can see, we've got a Women in Engineering affinity group as well. All of these are kind of launched and run by Amazon employees. But essentially, for such a big company with so many employees, it's really important for us to make it a really inclusive place to work and ensure there's as much diversity across the business as possible. Okay, so moving on now to apprenticeship programs. And in a second, I'll ask Brian to come in and talk about the engineering programs in particular. But just before I do that, so apprenticeship programs in general. So we have a wide variety of programs across Amazon. We've currently got around about 30 or just over 30 different programs at various different levels. It's everything from engineering, which you're hopefully all interested in today, through to technology roles, sales and marketing. I said we've got apprentices in fashion, we've got apprentices in Amazon Video, got apprentices in Amazon Logistics. So apprenticeship is a very good way to learn those new skills, and Amazon has a lot of options, and year on year we are adding more programs to our offering. But what is an apprenticeship? So a lot of people might think they know what an apprenticeship is, but there's also a lot of confusion out there about what is actually an apprenticeship. So at a very high level, it's a structured learning program executed partly at school. So when we say school, that's kind of college, university, or through the training provider, and partly on the job. So at a very high level, you'll spend approximately 80% of your time in the day job for Amazon, and you'll spend about 20% of your time off the job learning. Now, that doesn't mean that every Friday you're off work and you're doing in a learning environment. Some of the programs, and Brian will come on to this in a second, will involve block learning, will involve months away from the job, learning the skills, learning the theory, and then putting it into practice on the day job. So essentially at the end of the program, however long that is, you have to have spent about 20% of your time off the job in a learning capacity. One of the best bits about an apprenticeship is you get paid while you're doing the qualification. So Amazon will pay for your qualification, and they'll pay you a decent wage while you're doing it. That includes the 20% off the job learning. So even when you're not working, you'll still be getting paid. So for people that have family commitments or can't afford to be out of work to get a qualification, an apprenticeship is a really good way to do both. So there's no break in earnings. You get the qualification, and it allows you to retrain or upskill. And you can see at the bottom there, there's various different levels of apprenticeship, from entry level, level 2, which is the equivalent of GCSEs. So these are for programs with people that don't have any kind of academic background or qualifications, right through to degree and master's level. So we've got lots of different programs. Just be aware of what level they are. Be aware of the qualification level. The length also varies. But as I said, the apprenticeships are a perfect way to retrain or upskill. Now, apprenticeships are not just for 18-year-olds straight out of college. We've got apprentices in their 40s, in their 50s that are using an apprenticeship to retrain and change the direction of their career. So that's one thing to be aware of. It's never too late to do an apprenticeship. It's never too late to retrain and do something you're passionate about. An apprenticeship is a really good way of helping you do that. Just my last slide before I ask Brian to come in. We've currently got over 1,000 apprentices across Amazon. These are across operations, engineering, technical roles, corporate, and AWS, so Amazon Web Services. Now, this is growing. You may have seen various announcements and articles in the news in the last week or so about how Amazon are offering 1,500 new apprenticeship opportunities this year. So you can see how much we're growing. The more we hire apprentices, the more hiring teams want to have them, because they do such a good job and provide such great value to our business, that the momentum's there, and apprenticeships are now a really key part of Amazon bringing in talent. So it's a good time to join. Okay, Brian, are you okay to come on camera? And I'm going to let Brian, who's much more knowledgeable about this than I am, to go through a bit more about Amazon engineering.
Okay, welcome guys. Let's get on to the engineering. In Amazon, the expression is RME, Reliability Maintenance Engineering. Hopefully that explains the sort of engineering we're doing. We're after improving our reliability by maintaining the equipment successfully, so that we don't have any downtime. If things break, it causes chaos. And in this sort of organization and business, if equipment breaks down, things will pile up very, very quickly. And that's exactly what we don't want, because at the end of the day, it will affect our customers. And as Adam has said, we are customer centric, and we do everything we can to help our customers get what they want. So engineering We have a lot of sites. As Adam was saying, we are expanding in the UK and through Europe a lot. And every site of ours has about 40 technicians to keep it maintained. It's a 24/7 business, so we work shift patterns, and we need that number of technicians with the mechatronics skill and automation skills to keep the equipment going. We are doing mechatronics because we find that that is the most efficient way of doing the engineering. We don't want to send a mechanic and an electrician out to do a job. We want to send one person who has the skills in both areas to be able to do the maintenance. So effectively, the RME teams are dealing with everything in the building. Okay, the equipment that actually physically moves packages around, but also the building itself. Let's go on to the next thing. So these are our 2 apprenticeship programs. Let me just remind you that the reason that we are doing apprenticeship programs is because we want to develop the correct talent for the business. Okay, and apprenticeships are absolutely key to this. When we go out into the marketplace to try and find people with the right skills, usually we find that quite difficult. But doing our own apprenticeship programs, we can make sure that the people have right skills for the future, and that's why we're doing it. Now, one thing I do like to stress is about the people we want on these programs. We do look at the people themselves. It's not just the ability to change an electric motor out or to fix a roller or a bearing or what have you. It's very important about people. We work on the team principle, okay, and building teams and getting a team approach is critical to us. In many ways, that's why we like our leadership principles as central to what we're looking for. Okay, it tends to do that. But we're not just looking for engineers who will replace the bearing, replace the motor, replace the sensor, or what have you. We want people who will actually say, well, I replaced that last month. Or that's the 3rd time this year that that piece of equipment has gone faulty. Why is it doing that? Okay, to look into the reasons why things are happening so that we can improve. So even at the apprenticeship stages, whilst you're on the apprenticeship program, that is the sort of attitude we're looking for. Learn and be curious. Why is something happening? Can we fix it? Can we stop this from happening? Thereby improve our reliability, improve our availability, and therefore make sure that our equipment is working when we want it to. So it's very important that you come in with that sort of attitude. We have the 2 apprenticeship programs currently. There is a 3rd one for RME Planner coming in shortly, but the 2 we're running at the moment are Automation Engineering and Mechatronics. As you can see, they are distinctively different levels. The Automation Engineer is a level 6 program, which means that at the end of the apprenticeship, you will come out with a bachelor's degree in controls engineering. So it's effectively going to university, getting a degree, and being paid to do it. So you won't be coming out with £30,000–40,000 worth of debt. Very attractive. The Mechatronics is a level 3. Okay, so that's a BTEC level 3. We do actually add an HNC as an additional benefit for this apprenticeship program. Both are 48 months long, 4 years, and both of them involve being away for the first year at our external training providers, where you will learn effectively all the basics of engineering. What we're trying to do is as Adam has said, the apprenticeship programs these days have an 80-20 split. 80% is on-the-job training, 20% is off-the-job training. We like to do the first year as full-time away at our external training provider to bring everybody up to a certain level which is safe for them to go on and do the on-the-job training phase. As Adam has said, age is not a problem. We have lots of different people on the apprenticeship programs, from 18-year-olds who are just coming out of college to guys in their mid-20s, early 30s, who have been in the business for a little bit doing things, but now want to get a real career and a professional qualification, and to guys who are in their late 30s, 40s, and even up into the 50s, who have been doing work in one particular field, have decided that they would like to change into the engineering field. Okay, so it's not too late for anybody. Once you've done the first year away at the training provider, again, we will provide you with all the accommodation and pay for your transportation to and from the trainer. You'll then stay at the fulfillment center of your choice and then do the on-the-job training phase. At the end of the 4th year, you'll go through the new endpoint assessment process. This is independent of Amazon, independent of the training provider, and they will then decide whether you'll reach the right level, reach the bar to become a qualified technician. So here is the automation in a little bit more detail. As I've said, it's 48 months long, level 6, so you get a bachelor's degree in controls engineering. You will need 2 A levels, preferably maths and science, as an entry requirement for this. I stress the maths. You must have good maths to do this one successfully. It's a very high-powered apprenticeship. There's a lot going on. It's incredibly busy. And you do need to have that sound basis in your mathematics if you're going to be successful. Mechatronics, again, level 3, so the entry requirement is GCSEs, is what we are asking for. Occasionally, we can take people down with level 2 maths and English, or the equivalents. As I said, this is a level 3, so you'll come out with a BTEC qualification, but we do, as an optional, allow you to go for an HNC in engineering. This particular one, as I said, is 4 years long. At the end of it, again, endpoint assessment, but also you will, by doing that endpoint assessment, be qualified to then get engineering tech status with one of the institutes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
Over
Brian.
to you.
Thanks very much. We'll see Brian again for the Q&A. So just very quickly before I introduce some of my other colleagues back again, essentially who are we looking for? Now, Brian's kind of covered this very well in previous slides. What I would say overall for any apprenticeship, you need to have a passion for learning. We've mentioned this before, learn and be curious, but I just wanted to re-emphasize it on this slide. It's really important to do an apprenticeship, be successful in an apprenticeship, that you have a passion for learning new skills, and you also take the ownership and responsibility for completing anything related to it. You get support, you get mentors, you get buddies, you get other apprentices, hiring managers, Brian, people like that to support you through the program, but only you can make it a success. So you have to be passionate, you have to be willing to put in the hard work, take ownership and deliver everything else. And then also passion for engineering will definitely help. You've got to have a passion for what you're doing, because then you generally put more into it and get more out of it. Okay, so now I'm going to ask Paul to come in, who's one of our area managers in RME and very passionate about apprenticeships. So from Paul's perspective, I'll let him talk through our programs with you. Over to you, Paul.
Cheers, thank you. So, so my name's Paul, and I'm one of the area managers at MAN3 in Bolton, in Greater Manchester. One of my roles at Amazon is I look after 18 apprentices here at MAN3, and I currently have automation and mechatronic apprentices. So what I do is I work closely with the on-the-job training provider for the first 12 months. And then in the second year, the guys come to me on site. And then what they do is the first year when they get to here on site, they learn and spend time working with the different engineering teams. As Brian said earlier in the slides, it's all about we're responsible for everything inside the building. So the first year, when they come to site here, which is your second year in your apprenticeship, you'll spend some time working with the estates team. It's learning about the buildings, learning how it works, the fire alarm systems, all that kind of thing, the sprinklers. And then you'll move over to the Amazon Robotics team. So then you'll learn about Amazon Robotics, working with the AR team, doing that for a few months, and then you'll move over to the Days Reliability team. And when you're working with the Days Reliability team, you'll spend time learning about condition monitoring. It's all about reliability, as Brian said in his slide earlier, is we look to maintain the equipment. We want it to run as long as possible, but also we want to predict when failures come into practice. So we want to be ahead of the curve, change the parts out before breakdowns do go down. Breakdowns do happen, and when that happens, we go into a high severity situation. So what we do is we need people that are trained, organised, and able to change things out and do repairs in a high critical situation. And once the apprentices have completed the second year, what we do is, as Brian mentioned in the slides earlier, it's all about team building, team working. The apprentices, mechatronic apprentices, will work with the shift teams, and they'll learn about on-the-job learning, and that's when it kicks in with working the shift teams. And they'll spend 2 years preparing for their endpoint assessment. And it is my responsibility to get my apprentices through their endpoint assessment. As I say, I've got 18 apprentices, and I've got to get them through their endpoint assessment. Once they've got through their endpoint assessment, then there's a job for them for life, for as long as they want to work with Amazon. Also, as well as one of my successes is one of my apprentices last year, my first one, completed his endpoint assessment, and currently working with the shift teams. So that's one of my successes. He's our very first apprentice that's actually come through the 4-year programme. One of the other highlights of the apprentices is that Sarah and Rory, in the first year, they've got a couple of Apprenticeship Month Awards while they're working at MTC. So I'm really proud of what they've achieved in their first 12 months. And hopefully they continue that throughout their apprenticeship. But also, what we've said is we want somebody that's got a curious learning, that a can-do attitude. It's about the person. And so when I do my interviews and when we do the assessments, we look at people. Can they fit into a team? Are they a team player? Will they improve the team? Will they work with the team? And when we have our apprentices working with us, they are part of a team. We don't differentiate between apprentices and mechatronics. They all do exactly the same. And one of the things that we've been able to do this year for the first time is that we've sent out a couple of our apprentices out to France, where they've helped support launch a site in Metz in France. So a couple of 3-year and 4-year apprenticeships went out there too, and it's just all about giving the apprentices that experience for when we do launch sites, for when they come out of their endpoint assessment. So we do give a wide variety of work for our apprentices to do. And also, one of the things, advice I can give to people, if you do get to the interview stage, do a lot of preparation. There's nothing worse when you're interviewing somebody and they're not prepared and they're not prepped. They haven't done any background about Amazon. They haven't done any background about the questions and the leadership principles. And these leadership principles questions that we do ask you, it's not based on engineering, so you can come into the business without any engineering experience. It's about you as a person. It's about you showing us that you want this enthusiasm for learning. And if you've got the enthusiasm for learning and that can-do attitude, we'll be able to develop you into a successful apprenticeship. And that is over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again in the Q&A shortly. Okay, Sarah, are you there, please?
Hi.
Okay, hand over to yourself.
Right, so I'm a second-year apprentice doing the Mechatronics program. So in the second year, it's split between 4 months on robotics and 4 months on days reliability and 4 months on CBRE. That's within MAN 3. It could be different in different sites. So I'm currently on the days reliability team, and so we do a lot of projects, a lot of refurb. Yeah, it's quite fun, enjoying it. Before that, I did the AR, so that was working with the robots and learning about the drive units and how to repair them. So I chose to be an apprentice because it was an opportunity for me to start a new career. So, my background's in fashion. So I've got a degree in fashion, and I had a career as a costume designer. But I've always had an interest in studying engineering. So when the opportunity came up, I decided to retrain. Yeah, so I gained experience at the same time as earning a full wage, which is great. So I found out about the apprenticeship actually because my dad is actually an RME tech, and he's heard a lot of good stuff about it. So I thought, why not? So I searched on the Amazon Jobs website, found it and applied straight away. And it's just thought it would be a great opportunity for me. So I'm still studying towards my level 3 qualification on site. So you work together with your manager, and they give you time out of your shift to do your studying for like a few hours a week. And come September, I've chosen to go and do the HNC, and so we can work our shifts around college as well. And so gaining hands-on experience alongside learning is always great, and we'll always have an advantage over somebody who might not have the experience but had been to college and done the qualification, but we've got both the experience and the qualification, and you can basically take it as far as you like it. And there's loads of opportunities for training as well, so which always looks good on your CV. So yeah, for my advice to you be, if you're interested, to get your application in early because it's very popular and you don't want to miss out. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Sarah. I'll see you shortly for the Q&A.
Okay.
And then finally, Rory, are you there, please?
Yeah, there we go.
Hi there. So hand over to you.
Yeah, so I am also on the Mechatronics level 3 pathway. I'm currently working also, I work with Sarah in currently on days reliability. As she said, we've recently just finished working with Amazon Robotics, so the AR side of the business. So day to day, currently we help a lot with projects, trying to find, as Paul said, trying to find any preventative work that we can do to avoid any breakdowns, or working on any projects that have been put in place. So retrofitting or upgrading certain parts of conveyors to ultimately improve the output and the efficiency of the FC. So why did I chose an apprenticeship? Ultimately because I wanted to retrain. I'm 30 years old, so I needed a job that paid well in order for me to, live pay my mortgage, pay all my bills, but also train and start a new career something that I've got a real interest for. I found out the apprentice. So my previous job was I actually helped young people get into apprenticeships. So I worked with young people who had been removed from school. So through my knowledge of apprenticeships and that, I've managed to find the apprenticeship that I'm on now through the government website. So the balance between the day and the apprenticeship program is fantastic actually at Amazon. Your managers are really accommodating. If you need time to do some work, you can just ask them and they'll be more than happy to let you go and do some work. At Man 3, we've got a bank of meeting rooms that you can just book out and take yourself away for an hour or two to get your work done. And again, if you have any questions or anything you need, any help you need on certain aspects of the apprenticeship, other technicians, managers and apprentices who are above you are really, really keen to help, which is fantastic. At the end of the career, at the end of my apprenticeship, hopefully going to pursue a career in engineering with Amazon, as mentioned previously, because it's such a huge business. There are so many different avenues you can take within Amazon. If you want to go more down the project route, working within the buildings, trying to upscale the buildings, or down the team manager routes. So that's hopefully what I will be looking to do once I finish. If I can give you any advice, it would be learn as much as you can about Amazon and about the leadership principles. They are, we've said it previously, they are embedded in Amazon, and everything you do does come back to the leadership principles, and you can see it in action day to day. So that's what I would say is one of the most pertinent pieces of advice I can give you is learn as much as you can about Amazon before you go to the interview, and really see if this company is the type of company you want to work for. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rory. Okay, I've just got a couple more slides I'm going to go through and a very short video, and then we'll welcome everybody back and we'll take some of your questions. Very quickly, application assessment process. This varies per program, but pretty much all of them involve the initial stage, apply online, upload your CV, and then there's some initial eligibility questions to complete. There is then usually some kind of online test and or video interview, which kind of tests your understanding and interest in the role. And then a virtual assessment center. So we've been running these virtually for the last couple of years, mainly due to COVID, but generally they have been working quite well doing them virtually. But again, some of them may be virtual, some of them may be on site, depending on the program. But in these, you'll do things like a group exercise, maybe some kind of presentation or practical task, and then also individual interviews. My tip for, I guess, every stage of this process is make sure you get your passion across for this. Like, why do you want to do it? It's all about learning, it's all about training. So we're not expecting you to be an expert from day one, but we really do want people to have a passion to learn and develop on the program. Okay, so very quick video, and then we'll wrap up. This was shot a couple of years ago. This was shot before COVID. So you'll see that the kind of COVID restrictions that we have in place at the moment aren't being adhered to in this video because it was shot before everything happened. Three of our apprentices just talking about why they decided to do a program. So let me just play this now for you.
When I was 16, I originally wanted to be an engineer, but I didn't see any females in engineering. So I went into nursing, but this apprenticeship gives me the opportunity to go back and fulfill that dream. So I studied digital film production, and then after finding very little in the way of work, to find something like an apprenticeship has been that kind of godsend in the way that, you get the guidance, but you also get the experience and you get paid for it.
I was a karate instructor. For me, the apprenticeship has the perfect balance of classroom and putting it into practice and reinforcing the learning.
You get to work firsthand very closely with other colleagues doing exactly the same thing as they do. You get to shadow, you get mentoring, you just learn so much out of it.
You get paid to learn, you get experience, you get a free degree, and then with this apprenticeship specifically, it will allow you to work anywhere in the world.
It builds confidence, it builds, your team building, your interaction, your communication skills. There's so many more aspects.
Within 3 months of this apprenticeship, I'd already learned more than what I had in 3 years of a university degree.
One of the great things about Amazon is that there are so many opportunities. It has been life-changing. It really is sort of seeing my way up the ladder now.
There's not one good path to a perfect education. You can go many different ways, and it's what you make of it.
Okay, so hopefully that just kind of reinforces the points that we were making. I quite like that video, even though it's a couple of years old, because there's some really good points in there about how much they're all learning on the program, what they can do with it. So hopefully you found it useful. There's more videos online as well. You can find them on our website, etc. So have a look at those. So final slide before we open up for questions. So if you are interested, vacancies are live now and will be throughout February, probably into middle of March. But I think as Sarah mentioned, just encourage you all to get your applications in as soon as possible. So make sure you have a look at our website, www.amazonapprenticeships.co.uk. It's a good starting point. There's information there on all of our programs. As I mentioned before, there's videos you can watch. There's a page on there about application support, some tips to help you through your application. And there's also, no matter what page you're on that website, there's a bright orange button at the top right hand screen which essentially starts your application. I think it says start your journey today or something like that. That will then take you through to the jobs page where you then actually apply. But there's also a website there, so apprenticeships.amazon.com. If you've got any questions after today, let us know. That will go through to the team. One of us will answer them, and we'll make sure that your email gets on to the person who can answer your questions most effectively. So I think then at that point, we'll open up for questions. So if I could ask all my colleagues to come back on camera and take yourselves off mute, please, and then we'll take some questions. What I will do is I'll leave this slide on there while we're taking the questions so that people can see the email address and the website.
Brilliant, thank you. There's been some great questions that have been through, and I can see that quite a lot have been answered on the chat as well. So hopefully everybody's getting the answers that they want. But we've got some more questions to put to the team as a whole as well. Nate said, what happens when you finish the apprenticeship?
I can start with this, and then Brian, if you want to add anything else. But
Yeah, no problem.
so effectively with all of our apprenticeships, while we don't guarantee a permanent job at the end of the program, it's very much the intention that everybody who completes the program remains with Amazon permanently in some capacity. It's, to train somebody up for 3 or 4 years, we wouldn't want somebody to then leave the program. So the idea is that you then transition into a permanent role. That could either be at your current site, it could be at a new site, and then you basically carry on your permanent career with Amazon from there.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just to take that on, yes, we don't guarantee a permanent position at the end of the apprenticeship, but we do absolutely everything in our powers to get a position available for a person who wishes to stay. Of course, you may get to the end of the apprenticeship and not wish to stay with Amazon. That's perfectly acceptable. We'll be sad to lose you, but it is your choice at the end of the day. We will do everything we can to find you a position.
Great stuff, thank you. Brian asked, how have you adapted to COVID at Amazon?
Well, it's affected everybody, obviously. And we've tried to be as proactive as we can. So obviously with COVID, we've tried to ensure that people working in our facilities, where possible, follow all the government guidelines about distancing. We wear face masks throughout. etc. And we obviously do temperature checks for people coming into the site to try and ensure that everybody else who's working in the facilities are as safe as possible. On the apprenticeship, our external training providers have also had to adapt because, again, they've been faced with exactly the same problems with the government restrictions. And so we've adapted a lot of our training to be done remotely. And so if we do, for instance, a couple of occasions over the last 2 years where we've had lockdowns, our apprentices have been able to do a vast amount of their work remotely, working either from home or from their accommodation, if that's more convenient for them, without having to do face-to-face training. Having said that, of course, there is a lot of training that has to be done face-to-face. Again, what we've done is reduce the size of the groups, increase the distance between people so that they can still do the training. And so we've had to actually think up of a lot of ways of getting around COVID. Obviously, if someone goes down with COVID, their safety is paramount for us. And so they will obviously isolate. And we therefore then try to mitigate any fallout from that so that it doesn't affect them. With a 4-year apprenticeship program, somebody going off for 10, 14 days or whatever's necessary to recover, in the long term, we can get over that. So, we've done a lot of things to work around the problem.
Brilliant, thank you. There are a few questions around what I imagine is probably available on this URL that you've got on this slide here. So within the session, people are asking where they can apply. For everybody that's here, it's there on the screen here, amazonapprenticeships.co.uk. People asking about application deadline and salary. Adam, am I right in thinking that all of that information would be on that URL?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Brian, what's the deadline for the engineering programs? Is it middle of March or is it earlier than that?
No, I mean, for Mechatronics, we're going to try and keep the application or the adverts open until April, and for automation until the end of March. Now, what I will say is we have had an incredible amount of applications this year. There is a lot of people chasing these positions. So if you are keen and want to do it, do not hold back. Get your application in as soon as possible. Because obviously, if we start getting overwhelmed, we will start to close some of these adverts down earlier because we just can't deal with the numbers.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, everybody who's here, there's about 8 minutes left of the session, and I've got about 5 questions I'd like to put to the apprentices. So what I would just say, for anybody who's got questions around starting dates and deadlines and so on, there is the email address at the bottom of this slide, which is additional questions, and it's apprenticeships@amazon.com. So if there are any questions around the practicalities of applying and so on, I would definitely direct your question here, because I would like to go to Sarah next, if that is okay. And there was a question for you which said, can you tell me more about the other training that you've done outside of your apprenticeship? And that also leads in with some questions that came in around what kind of work experience would help somebody with an application.
So training wise, just last week we were doing ASI training, which is actuator sensor interface training. So that's for the sensors that are used around the FC for all the automation purposes. So we just learn a bit about that, how to be quite hands-on with it. And also when we started at the FC last September, we also did IPAF training, which is a certificate for driving around on the vertical lifts and the booms. So if you're working at height on the conveyors, you can work safely doing that.
Brilliant, thank you. And a question for both of the apprentices here. How do you find it studying and working, and is it hard to manage your time or workload?
As I mentioned previously, like your managers and your senior techs that you work with are really accommodating with trying to get your workload done. So the more they're more than happy for you to take, you know, an hour and two away to try and get some work done. Obviously, there is some work that you may need to do outside of your time whilst working at the FC. But when we were down in MTC for the first year, we had a remote day, working remotely from home, where we could get quite a lot of our work done, which was really helpful to try and get on top of the workload.
Brilliant, thank you. And this was a question for both of you. If we can, I guess, stay with you first. What are your plans after you finish your apprenticeship? What are the plans for the future?
As I said, hopefully to stay with Amazon and work my way up as high as I can possibly go. Really, you know, as I say, it's because it's such a massive company. There are so many different routes you can take within Amazon. So, you know, hopefully I plan to stay at Amazon for a long time.
Brilliant. And you, Sarah?
So I would like to stay within Amazon as well, as long as I enjoy it, and then possibly just do more training, maybe specialize in a certain field, and just see where that takes me.
Brilliant. There's a question here which said, are you given much responsibility if you join as an apprentice? Not sure who would like to take that one.
I can take that one. The not given overall responsibility, they're not allowed to work on their own. Obviously, they have to be supervised. What we have to do is look at the competency levels. So obviously, when they're at MTC, they come to site, and we assess their competencies. And, you know, people develop at different speeds. Some are more competent than others, some are a little bit slower, you know, and we gauge that on the field from the teams. You know, do we allow them to, you know, currently I've got a couple of new apprentices working together on a project. We're developing a training centre. So they're down there for the next 2 weeks, putting a PLC program together. And hopefully when they, you know, and I just have to drop in from time to time if they have any problems, just help them support, get bits and parts. So it's all on competency levels. You know, we assess people differently.
Brilliant, thank you. And a final question before we wrap up. And like I said just before, if anybody's got any questions that haven't been answered, please direct them to the email address, which is apprenticeships@amazon.com. So the final question is directed at both of the apprentices here today. The question is, what is the most exciting project you have been involved with as an apprentice? Sarah, do you want to lead?
We're still quite new to the FC, so we've been there since September. We've done quite a lot of projects. So when we were on the robotic floors, we were installing new overhead scanners. So that was quite interesting to see how that works. And if going forward, them new scanners will help speed things up. But that was quite fun.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, again, as I said, because as Sarah said, we've only just moved on to the day's reliability team, so we're doing quite a bit of training to get us up to speed. But on robotics, we did get a chance to do a lot of work on the drives, on the robot drives. So stripping them down, replacing parts, fault finding, which again was really interesting, and something I think that we both enjoyed, actually, getting hands on with the drive units.
Brilliant, thank you. All right, I think that's about it for questions now. Adam, if I can just hand over to you just for a final word on on everything before we end the session today.
Sure, yeah. Well, hopefully everybody found it useful. As I mentioned before, this is part of a series of webinars we're running, so check out the other ones as well if you wanted to join. But my, I guess, final thought would be, if don't think about reasons why you maybe shouldn't do this, or maybe they won't take me, or maybe I'm underqualified, maybe I'm overqualified, whatever the doubts you might have, just go for it. We've got so many examples of apprentices that have had doubts before they've done it and they really enjoy it. So don't sit there thinking this is why I shouldn't do it. Just think of reasons why you should, and then just give it a shot. That's what I would like to finish with.
Brilliant. I think that's a great parting statement. Well, personally, I'd like to thank everybody that's here. There's, still 500 people here, over 500 people here who've listened to all these questions and answers. So thank you, everybody who's joined in and saying thank you now. Thank you. And to the team here at Amazon, it's been a brilliant presentation. It's been so interesting. It's been super engaging. And like I said, there's been loads of questions and people joining in. So yeah, on behalf of Career Map, thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow, isn't it, for the next one?
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.